Message from God. Discover love, faith, and the path to peace. Have you ever felt like life's challenges are insurmountable, leaving you searching for clarity, hope, or even just a moment of peace? In the chaos and uncertainty of our daily struggles, a message from God whispers through the noise, "I love you. Do not fear. Trust me." This message is not just a comfort. It's an invitation to step into a life filled with purpose, strength, and unconditional love. This story begins with a profound question. How do we find hope and meaning in a world that often feels overwhelming? Through each chapter of this journey, God's words offer answers, promising guidance for the lost, strength for the weary, and blessings beyond what we can imagine. Imagine a lighthouse cutting through the darkest storm, its steady light offering direction and safety. This is the power of God's presence in our lives. What if the trials you're facing today are shaping you for something greater? What if the peace and freedom you've been longing for are closer than you think? Stay with us as we uncover the depth of God's love, the promise of His guidance, and the transformation that comes when we surrender to His plan. This journey could change everything. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by life's challenges, longing for clarity, peace, or a sense of purpose? In these moments of uncertainty, a gentle message from God emerges, offering reassurance. "I love you. Don't be afraid. Trust me." These words are not just a soothing whisper. They are a divine call, a reminder that we are never alone, even in the darkest of storms. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast and turbulent sea. The waves crash relentlessly, the winds howl, and the sky is shrouded in gray. Then, through the chaos, a lighthouse appears on the horizon, its light piercing through the gloom, guiding you to safety. This is the presence of God, a constant beacon of hope and strength, illuminating the path forward and reminding us that He is with us every step of the way. God's message begins with an invitation. "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." These words, spoken by Jesus, are an eternal promise to all who feel weighed down by the struggles of life. But what does it mean to come to God? It means opening your heart, surrendering your fears, and trusting in His plan. It is an act of faith, a leap into the unknown, with the assurance that His arms are there to catch you. Consider the story of Joseph from the Bible. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and falsely imprisoned, Joseph's life was a series of trials that seemed unjust and unending. Yet, even in his darkest moments, he held on to a profound truth. God was with him. The same message from God that comforted Joseph is offered to us today. "I love you. Don't be afraid. Trust me." Joseph's journey reminds us that God's presence is not just about providing answers. It's about offering comfort and strength. In every prison cell, in every moment of despair, Joseph could feel the hand of God guiding him, preparing him for a greater purpose. And when the time was right, God's plan was revealed, turning Joseph's trials into triumphs and using him to save an entire nation. Let me ask you, what storms are you facing right now? Do you feel lost? Wondering if anyone sees your pain or hears your cries? God's message to you is clear. "I see you. I hear you. I am with you." His love is not conditional. It is unwavering and eternal, offering peace in the midst of chaos and light in the darkest of nights. God's invitation is not just for those who feel strong in their faith. It is especially for those who feel weak, broken, or unworthy. Imagine a shepherd searching for one lost sheep, leaving the 99 to bring it home. This is the heart of God, a love so relentless that it pursues us even when we try to run away. His message is not a demand but a plea. "Come to me. Let me carry your burdens. Let me be your refuge." In the book of Revelation, Jesus stands at the door and knocks, waiting for us to invite Him in. This is a profound image of divine patience and love. God does not force His way into our lives. He waits for us to open the door, to let Him bring peace and purpose into our chaos. What doors in your life remain closed? What would it take for you to open them and let His light shine in? This divine invitation is also a reminder of our worth. The Creator of the universe, the one who holds the stars in His hands, calls each of us by name. I love you, he says. You are precious to me. Don't be afraid, for I am with you. These words are not just comforting. They are transformative. They remind us that we are seen, known, and deeply loved, even in our most vulnerable moments. But what does it look like to respond to this invitation? It means setting aside our fears and doubts, even when they feel overwhelming. It means taking a step of faith, trusting that God's plans are good and that His promises are true. It means allowing His message to shape our hearts and guide our steps. As we reflect on this chapter of God's message, let us remember that His invitation is not just to find rest, but to find renewal. His comfort is not a temporary reprieve. It is a lasting peace that sustains us through every trial. His love is not a fleeting emotion. It is an eternal commitment to walk with us, no matter where the journey leads. Let me ask you again, what burdens are you carrying? What would change if you placed them in God's hands, trusting in His love and guidance? His message from God is clear. Come to me. Don't be afraid. Trust me. This is only the beginning of the journey. In the next chapter, we will explore how God uses challenges to shape us, to prepare us for a future filled with blessings and purpose. Stay with me as we uncover the depth of His love and the beauty of His plan for your life. The best is yet to come. What is it about challenges that make them feel insurmountable? The weight of fear and doubt often presses down, whispering, "You can't do this. You'll never overcome." Yet, through the clamor of these lies, a message from God breaks through. Don't be afraid. Trust me. I am creating a new path for you. These words are not just encouragement. They are a promise, a divine assurance that every trial has a purpose and every step is part of a greater plan. Imagine a road winding through a dense forest, the way ahead obscured by shadows and thorns. At first glance, the path seems impassable. But then, a faint light appears, illuminating a way forward that had been invisible before. This is what God's presence does in the face of challenges. His light doesn't remove the obstacles but reveals the way through them, turning fear into faith and doubt into determination. Consider the story of the Israelites as they stood before the Red Sea, an impossible barrier in front of them and Pharaoh's army closing in behind. Fear and panic filled the air as they cried out to God. But His response, spoken through Moses, was simple yet powerful. Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. At the appointed moment, the sea parted, and the path to freedom appeared. What Red Sea are you standing before today? Is it a career setback, a fractured relationship, or a dream that feels out of reach? God's message reminds us that He is the God of the impossible. The same power that parted the sea and led the Israelites to safety is available to us. But this power requires one thing: faith. Faith is not the absence of fear. It is the courage to step forward despite it. Like Peter stepping out of the boat to walk on water, faith requires us to trust in God's presence, even when the waves rise. Yes, Peter began to sink when he took his eyes off Jesus, but even then, Jesus reached out His hand and lifted him. This is God's promise to us. I will never let you fall. Trust me, and I will guide you through. God's message from God also reminds us that challenges are not punishments but opportunities for growth. They are the refining fire that strengthens our character and prepares us for the blessings ahead. Imagine gold being purified in a furnace. The intense heat removes impurities, leaving behind something precious and pure. In the same way, our trials are shaping us, removing the doubts and fears that hold us back, and revealing the strength and resilience God has placed within us. In the book of James, we are told, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." This perspective shifts our focus from, "Why is this happening to me?" to, "What is God doing through this?" It encourages us to see challenges not as obstacles but as stepping stones toward the future God has prepared for us. Let me ask you, what challenges are you facing right now? What fears are holding you back from stepping into the life God has planned for you? His message is clear: don't be afraid. I am with you, and I am making a way. God's promise is not just about getting through the challenges, but about what lies on the other side. He assures us that every trial has a purpose, every tear is noticed, and every effort is seen. Like Joseph, who endured betrayal and imprisonment before rising to power, our struggles are not wasted. They are part of a divine tapestry, each thread weaving a story of redemption, growth, and purpose. Imagine a farmer sowing seeds in the soil. For a time, the seeds seem buried and forgotten, but beneath the surface, a transformation is taking place. The soil's pressure, the sun's warmth, and the rain's persistence combine to bring forth life. Our challenges are like that soil, and God's hand is the gardener, nurturing and guiding us toward growth. Are you willing to trust Him with the process, even when the outcome is not yet visible? God's message from God also calls us to release the fear that keeps us from moving forward. Fear whispers lies that paralyze us, but faith speaks truth that sets us free. Trust me, God says. I have plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. What might happen if you chose to trust this promise, to believe that God's plans for you are good, even when the road ahead seems uncertain? Faith in God transforms the way we see challenges. It shifts our focus from what we lack to what He provides. It reminds us that we are not defined by our struggles, but by His strength working within us. Imagine a climber scaling a mountain. The path is steep, the climb is exhausting, but the summit offers a view that makes every step worthwhile. This is the promise of God's guidance, that the journey, no matter how difficult, leads to a place of fulfillment and purpose. As we reflect on this part of the journey, let us hold on to the truth that God's light is always shining, even in the darkest moments. His presence is not a distant hope, but a present reality, guiding us, strengthening us, and preparing us for the future He has planned. Let me ask you again, what challenges are you facing, and what steps of faith is God calling you to take? His message from God is clear. Don't be afraid. Trust me. I am with you, and I am making all things new. In the next chapter, we will explore the unconditional love of God and His ever-present grace, a love that welcomes us, transforms us, and fills our lives with purpose and joy. Stay with me as we continue this journey of faith, hope, and divine revelation. The best is yet to come. Have you ever wondered if you are truly loved? Not for what you do, but for who you are? The world often ties love to performance or perfection, leaving us feeling unworthy when we fall short. But God's message from God breaks through these lies, declaring, I love you. Don't be afraid. My love is unconditional. This love is not earned or lost. It is a constant, eternal force that remains steady through every triumph and failure. Imagine a parent watching their child take their first steps. The child stumbles and falls, but the parent doesn't turn away in disappointment. Instead, they rush forward with open arms, encouraging and lifting their child to try again. This is the essence of God's love, a love that sees our stumbles yet never wavers, a love that calls us to rise and walk in the knowledge that we are cherished. God's unconditional love is beautifully illustrated in the story of the prodigal son. After squandering his inheritance and hitting rock bottom, the son returns home, expecting rejection or punishment. Instead, his father runs to him, embracing him with joy and calling for a celebration. This is not just a story. It is a portrait of God's heart for us. No matter how far we've strayed, His arms are always open, ready to welcome us back. Do you believe that God's love is this vast, this forgiving? Can you picture Him running toward you, delighted simply because you are His? God's love is also a love that listens. He calls us to share our hearts with Him, our joys, fears, struggles, and dreams. Come to me, He says, and I will give you rest. This invitation is not just about finding peace, but about experiencing the fullness of His presence. Have you ever poured out your heart to God, trusting that He hears every word and cares about every detail? Imagine sitting by a quiet stream, the water flowing gently as you speak your thoughts aloud. This is what it feels like to come before God with honesty and vulnerability. He is not a distant deity, but a loving Father who delights in our presence and responds to our cries. His grace, like the stream, washes over us, cleansing our fears and filling us with peace. The unconditional nature of God's love also means that it is unchanging. While human love may waver or fade, God's love remains constant. In the book of Romans, Paul writes, "For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation, will be able to separate us from the love of God." This truth is a foundation upon which we can build our lives, a reminder that no circumstance or failure can remove us from His embrace. But this love is not passive. It transforms us, shaping us into the people we were created to be. God's message calls us to come to Him not as perfect beings, but as we are, broken, flawed, and in need of grace. "I love you," He says, "and I will make you whole." Every wound, every scar, every regret is redeemed in His presence, turned into something beautiful and purposeful. Consider the Apostle Peter, who denied Jesus 3 times on the night of his arrest. Peter's failure could have defined him, but Jesus' love transformed it into a testimony of grace. After His resurrection, Jesus restored Peter, asking 3 times, "Do you love me?" Each question was not a rebuke but an affirmation, a reminder that Peter's failure did not disqualify him from God's love or purpose. What failures are you holding onto, believing they make you unworthy of God's love? His message is clear: "I have forgiven you. Trust me, for my love is greater than your mistakes." God's love also gives us the courage to love others. Just as we are recipients of His grace, we are called to extend that grace to those around us. Imagine a candle lighting another candle, its flame undiminished but the room growing brighter. This is what happens when we share God's love. It multiplies, illuminating the lives of others and reflecting His glory. Who in your life needs to experience the light of His love? Let me ask you, do you live as if you are deeply and unconditionally loved? Or have you allowed fear, shame, or doubt to cloud your understanding of God's heart? His message from God is unwavering. "I love you. Don't be afraid. Trust me." These words are not just for moments of strength, but especially for moments of weakness, when we feel most unworthy of His affection. God's grace also provides us with a purpose. His love is not just about comforting us. It's about calling us to something greater. He doesn't simply heal our wounds. He equips us to bring healing to others. Like Joseph, who used his trials to save his family and nation, our stories of grace become testimonies of hope. Imagine a river flowing from a spring, its waters nourishing everything in its path. This is what God's love does. It flows into our lives, filling us to overflowing, and then pours out to touch the lives of others. Are you willing to let His love flow through you, to become a vessel of His grace in a world that desperately needs it? As we reflect on this chapter, let us remember that God's love is not just a feeling. It is a force that transforms, redeems, and empowers. It is the foundation of our faith and the source of our strength. What would change in your life if you fully embraced this love? How would your relationships, your decisions, and your outlook shift if you truly believed that nothing could separate you from God's grace? In the next chapter, we will explore how God's love brings transformation and blessings, leading us to a life of purpose and fulfillment. Stay with me as we continue this journey of faith and divine revelation. The best is yet to come. Have you ever felt stuck in a season of life, unsure if things could ever change for the better? Perhaps you've questioned whether your struggles have any purpose or if they're leading to something greater. God's message from God offers a profound assurance. "I am working in your life. Trust me. I am making all things new." This promise is not just about change. It's about transformation, a complete renewal of our hearts, minds, and circumstances, leading to blessings beyond our imagination. Picture a potter shaping clay on a wheel. The process is not without pressure, as the potter presses and molds the clay, but the result is a masterpiece. Similarly, God is shaping us through every challenge, refining our character and removing what no longer serves us. The pressure may feel overwhelming at times, but His hands are steady, His touch intentional. What areas of your life feel like they are being pressed and molded? Could it be that God is creating something extraordinary within you? Transformation often begins with letting go. God's message calls us to release the things that hold us back: fear, doubt, bitterness, and regret. Like a gardener pruning a tree, he removes what hinders our growth, not to harm us, but to help us flourish. This process can feel painful, even like loss, but it is a necessary step toward the fullness of life he has planned for us. Consider the story of Job, a man who endured profound loss yet held onto his faith in God. In the midst of his suffering, Job proclaimed, "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Job's trust in God's sovereignty allowed him to persevere, and in the end, God restored him, blessing him with more than he had before. What might happen if you trusted God in the midst of your losses, believing that he is working all things together for your good? God's promise of transformation is not just about our circumstances. It's about our identity. He is not simply fixing what is broken. He is making us new. In 2 Corinthians 5 verse 17, we are reminded, "If anyone is in Christ, they are a new creation. The old has gone, the new is here." This transformation is not superficial. It is a deep and lasting renewal that changes how we see ourselves and the world around us. Imagine a butterfly emerging from its cocoon. What once seemed like confinement was actually the space where transformation occurred. The butterfly doesn't return to being a caterpillar. It embraces its new identity, spreading its wings and soaring. This is the life God invites us into, a life of freedom, purpose, and beauty. Are you ready to leave behind what no longer serves you and step into the new creation God has made you to be? God's message from God also assures us that transformation leads to blessings. His plans for us are not mediocre or small. They are abundant, overflowing, and filled with purpose. In Jeremiah 29 verse 11, God declares, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." These blessings may not always look the way we expect, but they are always what we need. Imagine a farmer sowing seeds in a field. For a time, there is no visible evidence of growth, but beneath the surface, the seeds are taking root, preparing to break through the soil and bear fruit. Our lives are like that field. God's blessings are often hidden at first, but with patience and trust, they emerge, bringing joy and fulfillment. What seeds of blessing has God planted in your life? Are you willing to trust Him through the waiting season? Transformation also requires partnership. God invites us to be active participants in His work, stepping forward in faith even when we cannot see the full picture. Like Peter stepping out of the boat onto the water, we are called to trust in His presence and walk toward Him, knowing that His strength will sustain us. What steps of faith is God calling you to take today? God's blessings are not just for our benefit. They are meant to overflow into the lives of others. As He transforms us, we become vessels of His love, grace, and hope, reflecting His glory to the world. Imagine a river flowing through a dry land, bringing life wherever it goes. This is what happens when we allow God's blessings to flow through us. Who in your life needs to experience the overflow of His love and grace? Let me ask you, what areas of your life feel resistant to change? What would happen if you surrendered them to God, trusting Him to transform them into something beautiful? His message from God is clear. Trust me, I am making all things new. As we reflect on this chapter, let us embrace the truth that transformation is not something to fear, but something to welcome. It is a sign that God is at work, leading us toward a future filled with His blessings and purpose. In the final chapter, we will explore how faith and surrender lead us to a life of peace, trust, and divine revelation. Stay with me as we take the final steps in this journey, uncovering the incredible hope and possibilities that God has prepared for us. The best is yet to come. What does it mean to truly surrender? To release our burdens, let go of control, and trust completely in the one who holds all things together? God's message from God calls us into this place of profound peace and unwavering trust. I love you. Don't be afraid. Trust me. I am your refuge, your strength, and your foundation. Imagine carrying a heavy load on a long journey, your shoulders aching and your spirit weary. Suddenly, a voice offers, "Let me carry this for you. You are not meant to bear it alone." This is God's invitation to us, a chance to lay down our fears, worries, and anxieties and find rest in His presence. What burdens are you carrying today? Can you hear His voice, gently urging you to surrender them? Faith and surrender are not signs of weakness. They are acts of courage and trust. They require us to release the illusion of control and acknowledge that God's plans are higher, His vision clearer, and His love immeasurable. In Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6, we are reminded, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." What would it look like to trust God with your whole heart, even when the path ahead seems uncertain? Surrender also brings freedom, the kind that transcends circumstances and fills us with divine peace. In Philippians 4 verses 6 to 7, Paul writes, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." This peace is not fleeting. It is a steady assurance that God is in control, working all things for our good. Consider Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, facing the weight of the cross. In His humanity, He prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." This act of surrender did not remove the pain of the cross, but it paved the way for resurrection and redemption. What are the cups in your life that you are struggling to accept? What might happen if you surrendered them to God, trusting that His plans are for your ultimate good? God's message from God also reminds us that surrender is not passive. It is an active step of faith. Like Abraham, who left everything he knew to follow God's promise, or Moses, who led an uncertain people into the wilderness, we are called to step forward, even when we don't have all the answers. Faith is not about knowing the outcome. It's about trusting the one who holds it. Let me ask you, what areas of your life are you holding on to tightly, afraid to release to God? Is it a relationship, a dream, or a fear of the unknown? His message is clear. Trust me. I am working miracles in your life, even when you cannot see them. Surrender also opens the door to divine revelation. When we let go of our agendas, we make room for God to reveal His plans, His purpose, and His glory. In Revelation 3 verse 20, Jesus says, "Here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person, and they with me." This invitation is personal and intimate, a call to communion with the Creator of the universe. Imagine standing before a door, hesitant to open it, unsure of what lies beyond. But as the door swings wide, you find light, peace, and the presence of the one who has been waiting for you all along. This is what happens when we surrender and invite God fully into our lives. What doors in your heart remain closed? Are you ready to open them and experience His fullness? Surrender also leads to action. It is not a retreat from life, but a step into the life God has prepared for us. It calls us to live boldly, sharing His love, grace, and hope with the world. Like a river flowing into the desert, our faith brings life to those around us. Who in your life needs to see the power of your trust in God? How can you be a reflection of His peace and strength? As we reflect on this final chapter, let us remember that surrender is not about giving up. It is about giving over, handing our lives to the one who knows us better than we know ourselves. It is about living with open hands and hearts, ready to receive His blessings and share them with others. Let me ask you again, what would change in your life if you fully trusted God? How would your relationships, decisions, and outlook shift if you lived in the peace of His promises? God's message from God is not just a comfort. It is a call to action. I love you. Don't be afraid. Trust me. I am your refuge and your strength. These words are an invitation to live a life of faith, surrender, and divine peace. A life that reflects His glory and brings hope to the world. This journey through God's message from God has been one of love, faith, transformation, and surrender. It is a story of hope and possibility, a reminder that we are never alone, and a call to live boldly in His promises. What part of this message has spoken most deeply to you? Share your reflections in the comments. We would love to hear your story. If this message has inspired you, subscribe to our channel, God's Chosen Path, where we explore the depth of God's love and the incredible journey of faith. Together, let us step forward, trusting that the best is yet to come. Remember this truth always: I love you. Don't be afraid. Trust me. May this message guide your steps, bring peace to your heart, and inspire you to live a life of purpose and joy. Until next time, stay inspired, stay faithful, and trust that God is with you, always. As we reach the conclusion of this journey, one truth shines above all. God's message from God is a testament to His unwavering love, guidance, and purpose for our lives. Through every trial, every blessing, and every moment of uncertainty, His words remain constant. I love you. Don't be afraid. Trust me. This is not just a reassurance. It is a call to live a life of faith, hope, and transformation. This story reminds us that God's love is unconditional. His plans are good, and His presence is steadfast. No matter what we face, we are never alone. His promises illuminate our path. His strength carries our burdens, and His grace transforms our hearts. Let me ask you, what has this journey revealed to you about God's love and purpose in your life? What steps will you take to live out this truth, to trust Him more deeply, and to share His light with those around you? Share your reflections in the comments. We'd love to hear how God is working in your life. If this message has encouraged you, we invite you to subscribe to our channel, God's Chosen Path, where we continue exploring the beauty of God's promises and the power of faith. Don't forget to like this video and click the notification bell so you never miss an opportunity to grow deeper in your relationship with God. Remember, I love you. Don't be afraid. Trust me. These words are not just for today. They are for every day. May they inspire you to live boldly, love deeply, and trust fully in the one who holds your future. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, may God's love guide you, His peace sustain you, and His blessings overflow in your life. Stay inspired, stay faithful, and know that the best is yet to come. See you in the next video.